Europe, USA and Canada, South America, Asia Pacific, Middle East and North African regions. Also available on these digital platforms across the world. WION. World is one.
Hello everyone and welcome to WION Live broadcast from New York City. I'm your host, Susan Tehrani. First, let's take a look at this hour's headlines. An ambulance convoy carrying the bodies of 8 workers who were killed by an Israeli airstrike leaves the Gaza Strip via the Rafah crossing. The airstrike had killed 7 workers from the charity World Central Kitchen, including citizens of Australia and Britain, attracting wide-scale global condemnation. As Taiwan grapples with the aftermath of the massive earthquake, world leaders offer support to the people of the island. India's Prime Minister Modi offers his condolences. Setback for Thailand's Move Forward party after a constitutional court accepts a case seeking dissolution of the popular anti-establishment party. NATO Secretary General Jens Stoltenberg asserts that Ukraine must receive long-term, predictable, robust support rather than short-term aid amid the country's war against Russia. Finland signs a 10-year security cooperation agreement with Ukraine. Kyiv has been urging its allies and partners to provide them with air defense systems that can counter Russia's continued aggression. Joel Embiid returns for the Philadelphia 76ers just ahead of the postseason. The reigning league MVP scores 24 points to help the 76ers edge the Oklahoma City Thunder.
Did you see the join his hometown team after the buyout with Charlotte? There is Embiid, and we are tied. Drop as this team continues.
The U.S. till now had maintained that it had warned Russia about an impending attack by extremists weeks before the Crocus City Hall massacre that left 140 people dead. But now a Washington Post report states that the U.S. government warned Moscow, specifically mentioning that the famous Crocus City Hall was a potential target for a terror attack. If the information was so specific, why did Russian authorities fail to foil the attack? This report directly contradicts Moscow's claims that the U.S. warnings were too general. According to the Washington Post, this information was passed on to Russia a day before the U.S. Embassy in Moscow issued a warning on March 7th to American nationals to avoid mass gatherings in the Russian capital. Well, Vladimir Putin publicly dismissed U.S. warnings just 3 days before the March 22nd attack, calling them outright blackmail and attempts to intimidate and destabilize our society. Russian Foreign Intelligence Service Director Sergei Naryshkin admitted on April 2nd that they did receive information from the U.S. mentioning Crocus City Hall. He said it was too general and did not allow us to fully identify those who committed the terror crime, and that Russia took appropriate measures to prevent the attack. While it's a routine practice for the U.S. to share such information about possible terrorist attacks under its duty to warn policy, it is unusual for the U.S. to give such intel to an adversary, as it risks revealing how the U.S. obtained the intelligence. Russian authorities soon apprehended the Crocus City Hall attack suspect in Bryansk, claiming that they were en route to Ukraine, claiming that Kyiv had hired the operatives, allegations that U.S. and Ukrainian officials have rejected. President Vladimir Putin said on Tuesday that Russia will find out who was behind last month's attack. Meanwhile, Russia is seeing a significant jump in the number of people signing contracts to join the armed forces since last month's deadly City Hall attack. Russian Defense Ministry said that more than 100,000 people have signed contracts with the military since the start of the year, including about 16,000 in the past 10 days alone. For more on this, we were earlier joined by Dr. Sergei Markov, a former spokesperson for Russian President Vladimir Putin. Listen to his insights.
First of all, Russia doesn't trust to the American intelligence service because, first of all, they're enemies of Russia, and secondly, because they support clear terroristic regime in Ukraine, which organized already dozens of terrorist attacks on the Russian territory. And thirdly, because United Intelligence Service already have been lying in many, many cases, including famous accusation of the head of the Iraq that Iraq has a mass destruction weapon. So no trust. First. Secondly, when a United States embassy on the March 7th told that there are some probability of the organizing terrorist attack in the Russian, specifically in Moscow, concert halls and in another big meetings, immediately Russian security increased measures of security control. It was realistic information because also the Russian presidential elections had been scheduled for the March 17th, so just 10 days. According to our general vision in public, this terrorist attack has been organized and should happen on the March 9th, exactly in Crocus City Hall, where famous patriotically oriented Russian singer with a nickname Shaman, who is also public spokesman for Vladimir Putin during this presidential campaign, give a concert. But this terrorist attack didn't happen because in a very big increasing of Russian security measures. But after elections happened, of course, Russian security cannot keep the biggest level of the security measures forever. So after the elections, these measures have been decreased. And terrorists used this new situation and organized such terrorist attack.
World leaders have expressed shock and anger at an Israeli airstrike that killed 7 aid workers in the central Gaza Strip and have now restated their call for an immediate ceasefire. That is. The U.S.-based humanitarian organization World Central Kitchen on Tuesday confirmed that its staff were killed in a targeted attack carried out by the Israeli military. Those killed were from Palestine, Australia, Poland, the United Kingdom, the United States, and Canada. World leaders echoed the NGO's anger as Israel's onslaught on Gaza continues to worsen its global image. U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken said Washington has urged Israel to carry out a swift, thorough, and impartial investigation. During his visit to Paris, he also urged aid worker protection, saying, quote, "We shouldn't have a situation where people who are simply trying to help their fellow human beings are themselves at grave risk." Australian Prime Minister Anthony Albanese confirmed one of the killed and workers was Australian Zumi Frankcom. Speaking at a news conference in Brisbane, Albanese said Frankcom's death was completely unacceptable and beyond any reasonable circumstances. UK Foreign Minister David Cameron also described the killing as deeply depressing, calling on Israel to investigate and provide an explanation. and hours after the aid worker's death, Britain summoned the Israeli ambassador. Further, Poland's Ministry of Foreign Affairs expressed condolences to the family of its citizen who was killed in a post on X. It added that objections to disregard for international humanitarian law and the protection of civilians, including humanitarian workers. Spain's Minister of Foreign Affairs said he was horrified by the death of the aid workers and demanded an immediate ceasefire and entry of humanitarian aid. A Spanish Prime Minister, Pedro Sanchez, also urged Israel to clarify circumstances of airstrikes on aid workers. Following the attack, the Israeli military said that its investigations to understand all the circumstances of the incident is underway and that it makes extensive efforts to enable the safe delivery of humanitarian aid. However, several hours later, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said that the strike was unintended.
Unfortunately, in the last day, there was a tragic case of our forces unintentionally hitting innocent people in the Gaza Strip. This happens in wartime.
Seaborne aid for the population of Gaza is returning to Cyprus. International agencies said Monday's attack was a serious setback in attempts to expedite aid into Gaza, where many are on the verge of famine. Taiwan has reported a massive 7.2 magnitude earthquake. At least 9 people have been killed and over 800 others have been injured in one of the strongest quakes in the self-ruled island nation, and one that it has suffered in the past 25 years. Several people are all believed to be trapped under rubble as well as we speak right now. TVBS correspondent Ho Huang-chi and Isabel Wang have all the details for us.
Taiwan woke up to the strongest earthquake it has felt in years. A massive 7.2 quake jolted the island nation's east coast. It originated in depths of 15.5 kilometers near Taiwan's eastern Hualien County. The quake set off tsunami warnings in nearby Japan and Philippines, which were later lifted. But there have been multiple casualties, and severe damage has been reported. Several buildings have collapsed. Many homes are left without power.
Collapsed buildings and damaged roads have also left 77 people, including foreign nationals, stranded in remote mountainous regions, awaiting rescue.
Rescuers are attempting to safely evacuate those trapped. Taiwan's president-elect says rescuing victims trapped under the rubble is the top priority.
Currently, the most important thing, the top priority, is to rescue people. Rescuing them is of utmost priority. We need to find out how many people are still trapped and to rescue them as soon as we can. Those injured should be given quality medical treatment so they can recover quickly.
Taiwan's residents witness scenes of chaos and horror. Panic unfolded as surroundings shook violently. The quake has caused major disruptions to public transport. Tremors prompted suspensions and major delay to rail services.
Transport Minister Wang Guocai highlighted the extensive damage to critical infrastructure, including the Taipei's MRT circular line, Suhua Highway, and several Hualien tunnels, isolating the eastern part of the island. The reliance on sea transport is anticipated to continue for the foreseeable future.
Several strong aftershocks with tremors have also been felt across the island. Officials have warned powerful aftershocks are expected to occur until the end of the week. It is expected that the powerful quake can put Taiwan's ship industry at risk. Taiwan is a key player in manufacturing advanced semiconductor chips. The quake halted some chip-making machinery and staff were evacuated. With Wong Chi-ho and Isabel Wong, Bureau Report, WION World is One.
Strong winds swept through several states in the U.S., causing at least one death and spawning possible tornadoes. Thousands of homes and businesses were left without power. In southern Ohio, as winds raged and hail came down, residents were terrified.
Oh, dear Lord. Oh, dear Lord. I thought we were going to die. We're fine, though. We're fine. Oh, dear God, this is bad. It was definitely a tornado. I think it might have just missed us by a few feet. I think the way the hail was coming in. That'll scare you.
In West Virginia, about 140,000 customers were without electricity. Earlier, the National Weather Service of Charleston, West Virginia, had issued a tornado warning for the mid-Ohio Valley, one of the hardest hit areas with northeastern Oklahoma, where a strong weather system containing heavy rains produced 3 suspected tornadoes. Police said the storms caused the death of a 46-year-old homeless woman in Tulsa who died inside a drainage